F1 recently celebrated its 75th anniversary with a grand launch at the O2 in London. Everybody was there, including people nobody wanted to be there, it seems. Yet, I found myself avoiding it like the plague. No, I didn't think it was cringe per se, and if people enjoyed it, they enjoyed it. I'm not going to knock them for that. It just stuck with me for a bit. A strange, sinking feeling of, how do I put it, hopelessness, envy, loneliness, feeling out of touch. Formula One has seen an immense rise over the past few years. Liberty Media have achieved what everybody's favorite friend of fascism over here struggled with for decades. They figured out how to promote F1 in America and, almost more importantly, continuously positioned the sport amongst many hot topics of the day, like Kendrick Lamar, Stranger Things, Chappelle person. I don't know, I'm not well cultured. I have no idea what people watch, read, listen to. I don't know why I'm supposed to care, to be honest. And this is where the disconnect comes in. See, F1 is on vogue at the moment to some extent, I think. For most of my life, people around me didn't care about Grand Prix racing in any way, shape, or form. It was a small, magical world confined to 16 to 19 weekends per year or a few magazines. As mainstream as F1 happened to be over here when Michael Schumacher was still running at the front, it wasn't omnipresent. It would invite celebrities into its luxurious world, but they seemed out of place, and entertainingly so. Grand Prix racing didn't need or couldn't achieve the world's validation on a weekly basis. It was a boring, noisy, wasteful exercise where every 14 days or so one of these bland chaps would win, and that was fine by me. Boo-hoo, woe was me, I know. Point being, I never connected with Formula One through community, through other people, through a collective of sorts. This era, though, is blasting through stages of making people feel connected to anything? Cars, drivers, circuits, teams. Oh, of course, teams. The grand brands of our day presented on lightning fast billboards. Where's my MoneyGram shirt, Haas? Where's my MoneyGram? Do I understand why people feel anything towards these teams, drivers, or each other based on similar interests in those parties? No, not really. They're a big group of people building overpriced race cars financed by companies that despise the idea of life more than most would be willing to think about. Yet, here we are, 2025, and 20,000 people are willing to spend their hard-earned cash on watching a 6 out of 10 pop concert with F1 cars thrown in. What am I missing? The same goes for any modern Formula One race. That uncomfortable feeling I'd rather just not dive into. Why can't I just nod along and not feel this sickness twist through my stomach? Why do I feel so out of touch? Well, I suppose it's the hard contrast, isn't it? Every event in the vein of F1 75 is a cruel reminder of quite a few things. First up, this sport I used to adore as a kid has passed me by. Not angry about it, just very sad and a bit deflated, to be honest. And it's not just the marketing that makes me feel out of place. Now more than ever, F1 is building its success on communities, fan groups, people connecting through this wild circus of cars and stars. And I just can't with anything, really. A while back, I stumbled upon the idea that at its core, the human experience is about connecting with others. The fact that on our own, we're pretty much incapable of survival. Quite a grim thought, to be honest. I wish not to share how I stumbled upon this perspective, at least at this time. The concept seems not just to lean into the material reality of our existence. Emotionally speaking, loneliness, for lack of a better term, sucks. We tend to desire some form of intellectual or physical connection, and I'm sure some of you will have stumbled upon the countless amounts of videos talking about loneliness on YouTube. Great idea, lovely concept, small problem. I can't really do that. I have always struggled and will most likely always struggle with connecting with people. Do you remember the Squidward inside meme? This one right here. This is what most of my social interactions feel like, even if we happen to talk. An insurmountable barrier beyond what I can describe through language, at least at the moment. Not throwing a pity party here, just stating the current state of things. Chuck me into a group of any kind and this unease will only get worse. Trust in people is pretty much non-existent, which combined with the disinterest in collectives makes any political action or activism or involvement almost impossible. Educating oneself on how the world operates becomes a difficult task once you acknowledge not just your own flaws, but those of the people around you. It breeds a continuous cycle of not listening to anybody anymore, of just cascading through existence, wondering how people find the courage or belief to fight or love or dream. Okay, geez, that became dark rather quickly. But funny gif! The thought of people being what holds life together for somebody like me is bloody terrifying. Reading posts like the one decided to post on fill me with a sense of unease because of it. If this is what it boils down to, all of this boils down to, if the human experience is eternally defined by how we manage to connect and bond and build groups and just be together, maybe I'm a bit fucked. Under that lens, you might be able to understand why, next to many other reasons, the continuous reminders of one's own lack of human connection can be a bit tedious. F1 for me in small dosages and from time to time can serve as a form of FOMO for feeling connected, something that wasn't a problem 15 years ago. Bear in mind, I was literally 10 years old, like 15 years ago, so but it doesn't matter. And no, I'm not willing to replace my lack of community, my sense of belonging, whatever you want to call it, with a fake sense of community, one which I can monetize through my position of power in a public space. What I can do is annoyingly remind people that fascism is bad and that you should probably check out some other forms of motorsport. The last thing I want is for my feeling of disconnect to dictate how I treat others. I'm not willing to stoop down to the level of insulting people for enjoying modern F1. I might question it, heavily in fact, based in always feeling a sense of unease whenever people decide to attach intense emotions onto a television product. Yet judging people for that would be misguided and not be of any use for anybody. So what do we, or I, do instead? Seeking new forms of racing is one step for sure, at least in my case. Not letting that feeling be spewed out to passionate, well-educated fans whom I wish not to harm with my cynical views and experiences. Another approach, which might approve of, is to just be honest with how you feel and share it. This is arguably one of the most personal things I've ever posted on the internet, and I wouldn't have done so if I didn't hope that maybe, just maybe, it might help me and possibly somebody else in dealing with this bizarre experience. It's also important to recognize that this isn't a major issue, all in all. The world has enough to deal with. My sense of feeling disconnected certainly doesn't belong on that list. That being said, it doesn't mean I can't share it. Maybe there's a place for these kinds of thoughts out there somewhere. What I do wonder, though, if we go back to the O2 for a second, thinking about everything I just mentioned in terms of community and being together, being a collective, having a grand old time, if the F1 bubble ever bursts, if teams decide to move on, circuits fall apart, and manufacturers reduce their involvement, will those that proclaim to be fanatical about the sport still stick around? Not to judge, I've dropped many a form of entertainment in my time. It's just something I came back to when thinking about this collective idea. The pretense that this is an event, a happening, something to be experienced as a mass of people. If it doesn't grow and the hype is gone, will the happening die out as well? Will the FOMO for watching Ferrari unveil their next disappointment in car design wash away like their championship hopes? Will all of this go back into the bizarre little bubble from which it came from? For all I care, I don't really anymore. Though, admittedly, the feeling still kind of lingers on. Just a little bit.